How you doing today? We are live. So we're doing our hangout today. Give me a chat. Give me a chat room shout. Let me know that you guys can hear me and that everything is cool. Like chats. Chat. Boy, this is confusing. Okay. I see some of you there. See Deanna and Louise and Mary and Anne and Jagjit. You probably Jagji. I thought maybe for a second you just typed that in real fast. Can you hear me? Am I coming through? Am I coming in live? Am I coming in loud? Hello? Turning it off, turning it on. You gotta give me some feedback. Let me know. Awkward. Okay, so I'm not sure if I should just go for it or what. I'm in the room. Started the broadcast. We are live. Please. You know what? Maybe I've disabled the chat or something. Nope. Can you hear me? I'm talking, blabbity blab blabbing, wondering if it's even working. Am I getting through? This is Major Tom to ground control. No. Yes. Oh, thank you. All right. That's all I needed was just a little love there. Okay. Thank you, Jagjit. So we're going to have a chat today, and I hope I love it that you guys keep showing up for this. When I first had the idea and I started doing it, I didn't think it'd catch on. I figured people would just brush it off or blow it off or whatever. So let me tell you a little bit about my day here to kind of frame all of this and put it into perspective. Oh, you're on a mobile. Jagjit typed on a mobile. That's why it's so crazy. What's your name, Jagjit? So I've been awake working on a project now for 15 hours, and I did this to you guys last week too. I had been awake for a while, but I mean that didn't hinder anything. We went crazy, didn't we? I did another webinar earlier today, and I spent hours just in the like I guess production side of it, the development stuff. So I ran that at noon, and it went on for over an hour or so. And I got some time to eat, so I could run on up to hang out with you guys. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be a little bit shorter today. I'm not against going long. In fact, I really, really like that. It's a lot of fun. But today has been a taxing day on my family, really. I got my boys, and they are dying to go and do something and hang out. So we're going to, oh, Jagjit is your name. I thought maybe since you're on your mobile phone, the typing thing made it go quirky or something. I've never met Jagjit before, and I'm probably am not pronouncing that correctly. I'm probably butchering that, so please forgive me if that's the case, which I'm sure it is. So forgive me. Interesting. I did a webinar on forgiveness today. Okay. let's get into our topic, which I can't even remember what it was. My brain there's so many topics and things I wanted to do, and I've been everywhere. So today was called the Etheric Doorway and the Immortal Jellyfish. Well, today this one is just going to go on for a little while. And it looks like you raised your hand. Maybe you want to talk. That's super cool. If any of you guys ever want to jump on and talk, just raise your hand. There's a button there for you to do that. I'm going to go ahead and invite you to come on. So you have to jellyfish and etheric stuff. You're going to have to go ahead and, accept the permissions to do that. And then when you come on, be part of the group here. But there was a lot of foundational things. The reason I say that is because I wanted to talk about this concept of the etheric doorway. And it's one of those things that when you, I'm saying me, but you or anyone, when you have an idea or a concept in your head, it kind of makes sense until you have to verbalize it and you have to say what it is. And then it gets a little tougher and you have to really understand it and you have to really know it. And you have to really, you got to get into it. So I did not really, it was not a priority of mine this week to spend as much time diving into that. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to have some fun today anyway, because I'm going to go through some of the foundational parts, the sort of setup for that. And then maybe we'll do that next week, or maybe I'll make another extra video or something if I get a wild hair or something. And we can have a lot of fun with that too. So before I jump in, I wanted to say something to you guys. You're kind of a core part of the group. You enjoy these things and you've been coming back. We've only done 3 of them now, but I'm going to keep doing these. So I'm going to have a normal thing on Saturdays unless I absolutely can't be here for some reason. I mean, I still should be able to pre-record one and then play it for you. I want this to be a regular thing. And I did a webinar earlier today, and I didn't tell you about it because it was a promotional thing. I was promoting stuff, and I was selling a course of mine at the end of it, which is cool. I don't, feel bad about that. But I kind of want to keep the selling things to a minimum, I guess. That's not the best way to say that, but I want this to be an arena over the next few months for us to get to know each other. It's like a playground. We're going to have fun. We're going to have a lot of fun. Hey, check this out too. I got my bookshelves set up. So I'm really excited about that. No more digging books out of boxes and crap like that. I just know right where they are. It's been awesome this week. I have an idea. I go right to the bookshelf. I pull it. All of these books that I've gone through, I've made notes in the back end of them with a little page number and a 1 or 2 sentence. So if it's a concept and I know what book it's in, I just go to the shelf, grab it, pop it open, and then I run through it and I go, oh yeah. It's like an old friend or something. The first time you meet somebody, you don't know everything about them. You just meet at a party and you guys have a drink and then you talk about, I don't know, work or your family, and maybe it lasts 10 minutes or so, and then you're on to the next thing or next person that you meet. That's the way these books are. I don't try and just sit down and get every single thing out of a book. I sit with it, kind of flip through it. I look at the table of contents, read the front, read the back, and then I go to the parts that I think are interesting. I've found just from reading enough books that most of them have a few good points. I mean, some of them are packed full of stuff. So, not to say that they're not. Like for example, a textbook is just condensed information. But most books have 2 points, 3 points, and then they just fill up a lot of space. And I think that it's a sales, approach. You have to fill up the pages so that you can sell the book. Nobody wants to buy a 4-page book. even though all of the information could be like in 4 pages. Sorry, totally on a rabbit trail there. So today, not tonight, it's daytime, obviously, the sun is still shining on me. We're gonna go in the direction of the Etheric Doorway, and I'm gonna set up some foundation, and then I'm totally gonna tease you about this a little bit because it's wicked cool. Like, I mean, I'm serious. Like right now, I feel, you know how when you like say something or you hear a poem or, you know, your hair stands up, and my eyes are watering right now, like thinking about how heavy this is. It's like it's transformational. I was trying to find another word that wasn't so cheesy, but this is about the sort of line in the sand that we draw between our physical world and our energetic world, our electrical world and our magnetic world, our positive and our negative, our yin and our yang, our, you know, matter and etheric. It's energy and, you know, it's light and then it's frozen light. It's like these two things that, or two characteristics that exist simultaneously inside of one thing. Maybe that's where this comes from. Like, well, it's like uniting those worlds. I just totally made that up. I mean, make it up. Boom. I just got that right now. You saw it happen live. So let me just peek at this real quick. See. Who did we lose? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lost somebody. Okay. Forgive me for that pause there. So let us begin. I really want for our discussion to start around the topic of what we call a hologram. And really what I'm going to build up to is the holographic nature of our universe and of the world that we live in, because it's holographic. I mean, I don't care what you think. You can't argue. It's very, very, very Unitarian. Like the one is, the many is in the one. Like the tiniest part contains the information of everything. So let's talk about that for a little bit. And maybe I can even pull up some images for you to look at, because I want to go into this idea of how a hologram is created. And if you don't know how this looks, then you might really appreciate this, or you might be bored with it. I don't know. Okay, good. Here's one. This one is very simple. So I'm going to pull this picture up, and I'm going to come back here and share the screen with you so that you can see it. Okay, and it's in the corner here. Wish I could pull it over or something, but basically you can kind of reference this picture while I talk, okay? Because I'm going to explain to you how a hologram is made. Like, what up with that? What's a hologram? Well, first you have to start with what's called coherent light. So coherent light is basically, I'm going to steal the screen here. If light were to act in a way that, you know, here's the wavelength of light. If you have all of these beams of light that all fall in order together, they all match up together. Oops, I screwed up there. They don't bump, they don't touch, they just all are uniform and unison together. Kind of like soldiers marching or something. This is called coherent light. Whereas if it's incoherent light, here's a wavelength, and here's a wavelength, and here's a wavelength, and they just all, it's like a circus, and then they just bang and bump each other, and they knock the crud out of each other. So what laser really is a way to organize the wavelengths of light that are generated from the laser. So it's called coherent light, which is basically what a laser is. So you need to understand first that in order for this to work, we start with coherent light. We got all these soldiers marching together. So you fire the light, and what happens is there is in this image, they call it a half mirror. It's like a beam splitter. So it takes one part of the beam and it shoots it one way, and the other part shoots the other way. And that's, as simple as you can make it. And then you see that they hit these mirrors, and the mirrors make them sort of come back together at the point of this picture that's called the hologram. So one of them is made, it's split, and it bounces off a mirror, and it hits the photographic plate. So, technically in this example, the hologram, what they're calling a hologram, is really captured on a photographic plate. So right there, the very top beam that shoots across and then hits the top of, they call it the object beam here. One of them is a reference beam, one of them is an object beam. So basically, one of them hits the photographic plate and never touches the object. That's all you really need to know. One of them never touches the object and only hits the photographic plate. The other beam that was split now hits the object. So this is the part that's insane, okay? This is crazy. I can't say that I 100% understand it, but it's about an interference pattern, because when the reference beam and then the object beam, when they hit each other from different directions, remember they used to be coherent light working together, they create what is called an interference pattern. And if you remember this from our quantum physics talk, interference pattern is like when you throw two rocks in the water. Here's some great pictures of it. So if I throw two rocks into the water and they start to create rings that splash out, boy, that's making my eyes hurt. Let me get away from that picture. Boom. Sorry, I was looking at the chat thing. Where's a different picture than this psychedelic one? Like this. This is basically what happens. If you throw two rocks into a pond at the same time, they make these concentric circles that go out in directions. And when those two circle patterns hit each other, they interfere and cause this interference wave pattern. So the reason I'm showing you this is because when the interference pattern, there's the working beam or the object beam and the reference beam, they bounce off something, and then when they hit each other, they generate a third pattern. It's an interference pattern, and the interference pattern is what's recorded onto the photographic plate, okay? So if I just confuse the crap out of you with all of that stuff, don't worry. All you need to really understand is that these two, this beam of light is split. One of them goes towards the photographic plate. The other one bounces off and hits an object, and the patterns of light that bounce off of it interfere with this other beam, and the new third wavelength, or the interference pattern that's created from that, is what's recorded onto and creates the hologram, okay? So even if you didn't get all that, go with me on this, okay? Because I wanted to just talk a little bit about how you make a hologram, because holograms are tripped out. And this is why I say this. If I took my phone, okay, and I cut it up into 10 different pieces, and I just held one of them up, it wouldn't look like a tiny phone. It would just be one little part of my phone. But it's not how it works in the holograph world. If I take, let's say we took a holographic picture of an apple. Okay, so not only when we shine coherent light at that photographic plate now does the picture of the apple appear, It won't appear with just regular light, like you're, in the ceiling here, this incoherent, incandescent type of light. It won't work. You need another reference beam, and it's like it's as if the image of the apple is encoded inside of that. It's like it generates the working beam, so that when I shine coherent light at the photographic plate, I see an apple, and I see it in 3 dimensions. Like some holograms, you can walk around them and underneath them and above them, and you can see every 3-dimensional part of it. So it's a picture that is truly in 3 dimensions. Here's the part though that really makes me go, "Blah." If I take that picture of the apple, the holographic apple, and I cut it up with scissors, and I cut it into 70 pieces, and I take one tiny little piece of that, and I shine the light at it, I will see an entire apple. It will be tiny, it will be smaller, but it will be the whole thing, okay? It'll be the whole damn thing. That is crazy. What it, in essence, is showing, and this is where I'm going to sort of take a jump and applying it into the conversation that we like to have about, our biology and our energetic field and our living systems, is that in nature, this exists all the time. It's like in our cells, we have DNA. The DNA is like the tiny little part, but it contains all of the information to make everything. So an entire human being can be made from the information that's in one cell, in one strand of DNA. And I want to talk about this a little bit here. But before I jump to that, I just want to kind of tie up around the idea that when you cut up a hologram, it's not a bunch of pieces of the picture. Like if you cut up my phone, it's a bunch of pieces of the phone. What you end up with is a bunch of tiny versions of the whole. So it basically is what science is saying to us through that experiment, is that the information that makes up everything is encoded in the tiniest pieces of it. How about that? How about them apples? Right? There's some food for thought. Boy, I got a lot of puns going there. Okay. So let me talk a bit about this idea of DNA, because it's a great analogy. It's a great bridge between these sort of energetic wavelength type of experiments and even, scientific experiments showing how holograms work. Let's take it to our physical body and to our DNA. So I'm going to use an analogy here, and I want you to imagine, or let me just sorry, let me turn this off. Before I have you imagine this idea, I'm going to pose this question to you. And DNA explains a lot of things. It explains how these cells can become bones, and these are muscles, and these are tissue, sinew, and these are joints, fluid, and all of the different cellular types that make up the structure of the organs and the systems and the tissues, and the hierarchy of everything. They all come from the very one cell. Here's a sperm, here's an egg, they get together, they do the dance, you're one cell. And then you become 2, and then you become 4, and you become 8, and then you become 16, and then you become 32 and 64, and la 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 la. So the model and the understanding, the sort of theory of DNA and the gene, it gives us a great explanation of how those cells, how they do that. Like all the information is in there. And so the information to be a heart cell is in there, and the information to be an intestinal wall cell and a toenail and, XYZ. What it's missing, though, and this is really the point of this conversation, this is the question I'm posing to you, how do those cells know where to go? So in a spatial type of organization, yeah, the DNA says you're a bone cell, but how do you know to travel to the head of the femur and fit right into the acetabulum, right? Like the socket and the joint that happens there is not to chance. Like everything, how do those cells know to go out and make and organize and coexist and talk to each other? Almost like you would manage, in an office. You have a manager and these employees. The manager sees the big picture. The employees are focused on their task. So if all these cells are, differentiating to do their specific task, who's the manager, right? Who is the one overseeing all of it? So I'm going to put this into this analogy here. And I got this analogy out of Gerber's book, Vibrational Medicine, just because it's very elegant. And I definitely want to give credit to him for it. And here's the idea. We're going to use Little League baseball team. So let's say we take a bunch of kids, and they're smart. They know how to read, and they can comprehend, and they have critical thinking. And we take them, and we say, we're going to teach you guys to play baseball. And they say, we've never played baseball before. Okay, don't worry. I have a manual for you, and you only have one assignment on the team. You're either the first baseman or the second base or the third base. You're the catcher, you're the pitcher, you're the shortstop. You're the outfield, center, left, right. So there are defined roles, just the way cells differentiate into specific roles that they play. Same thing on a baseball team. You don't have to know how to do everything else. But here's how they learn, okay? We give them a book, we give them a manual called How to Play Baseball. And it's like this thick. It's just a monster book. And they're kids. They're like, well, I can't read that whole book. Like, my attention span is only this big. So we tell them it's okay, because what we've done is we've put black construction paper on top of all of the pages that are extraneous, and you don't have to know them. So there's only about 30 pages in this entire book that are pertinent to you and the position that you're going to play on the baseball team. So the kids all go, oh, okay, I can do that. I can learn that. So even though they have access to all the information, most of it is blacked out except for their specific role and what they're supposed to play. Okay, so this is the same exact way our cells work. Our cells are all individual players trying to do specialized differentiated functions in our body, and they have a manual that tells them how to do everything. So instead of having to do it all, they have several pages in their manual blacked out. There's black construction paper on those, and these are proteins on top of the DNA that are called histones, and the proteins essentially cover up the DNA so it can't be reached. So the parts that are unnecessary and not needed for that cell's function, you just don't use them. You can't reach them, which is interesting. A side note, when they did a Human Genome Project, and they studied all this DNA, and they're like, the human gene is so superior and so complicated that we expect to find, some crazy number. And I'll butcher the number, so don't quote me, but they were like, we're going to find 500,000 different gene expressions and combinations. And they ended up finding 15,000, which just blew their mind. It blew their mind. They took the DNA, and then they took all of the protein coverings that were on top of the DNA. They ripped these off and threw them away. They said, we don't need this. This is junk. We're going to study this part here. So they threw away half of the DNA in their experiment. So, of course, it almost seems like they were trying to find what they wanted to find. But this pioneered the whole science of epigenetics and how the environment removes those histones or places them back on, meaning that the cues that we get from the environment, whether they're intense and physical or whether they're subtle and energetic, turn on and turn off the expression of the gene. So the gene really, it's not like you're born with some gene and you're doomed to have it forever, that you influence that. You really do. And this is one of the conversations I love about the power of your mind and your thinking, how it influences your body, your physical reality, like not only just your health, but your ability to broadcast and connect with like-minded people, places, stuff that resonate and bring to you all of the goods and all the, the goodies that you want in life. So the reason that I'm bringing up this baseball example is because all of those kids can go and learn how to do their specialized task, right? Just like a cell would. But here's the problem, and I mentioned this a few minutes ago. Those players, they don't know how to go out onto the field and organize themselves spatially. They don't have the concept. They know what their goal is and what they're supposed to do, but they don't know how to organize themselves respectively to each other in the space that they occupy. So when they go out onto the field, all right, onto the baseball field, the energetic field, the field is like the template for them. Okay, they know their role and they know what to do, and it happens inside of this field. The field like contains all of it. And the same thing is true for you, for your cells, and for you, your mind too, that it's all contained inside of this energetic field. This was the science that was created for things like, if you guys have never gotten into Robert Becker, The Body Electric, fantastic research scientist, super geek, incredible book called The Body Electric. He's based a lot of his work off of a scientist named Burr, B-U-R-R. Was he Robert Burr too? I'm remembering him as Robert Burr, but it's probably not. Burr was a research scientist in Yale, and he was like obsessed with understanding the electromagnetic or energetic field around living organisms. And he started with salamanders. And what he postulated was that there was a current present that sort of guided the expression of those cells so they knew where to go. There was something I'll just say it was an energy field that held the information or the template. It was the field that held spatially together the instructions for all those things to know where to go and to know what to do. So you could take an egg and he did it with like little micro pipettes, and he put like black ink into the developing embryo. And what he noticed was that all of that ink followed along the central nervous system. So the brain and the spinal cord was brought into this progression or this flow or this like predetermined march that was happening. Becker was one. Burr was one. Russian guy named Kirlian. He was doing his research the same time Burr was, and so I don't know that they knew about each other, but it's one of those things that was in the field. Like, if you can just connect with that, let me go on a side note here. If you can connect with the field in that way, then you have the potential to access like all of the storehouse of information in the universe. I really believe this, and I'm going to build up to this some more here before we end. The idea of you being able to understand things about our world and our universe and our cosmos that are beyond our comprehension analytically on a conscious level, that it's not a physical type of understanding, but it's something else. I don't really know that I know the words to explain it. I don't. I wish I did, and I wish I could just tell you. But Kirlian was all about studying the field. So he would take these pictures using electrophotography. It was dubbed Kirlian Photography, and it was something that I don't know. I don't understand it totally. I don't really care to either. It was like corona discharge, that you put a photographic plate between a person and electromagnetic source, and when you fired, there was a discharge and looked like this corona around the sun, whatever. It basically was saying, I'm taking a picture of the energetic field around a living organism. And I've seen some videos of this too, where a guy's sitting at a table and he's eating like fast food, and his field is just like, bleh. And even the table and the chair are just dull. And then they take that away and they put fruit in front of him. There's like raw living food, and he's eating that, and his field just goes whoa, 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 whoa. And it's incredible. It's trippy, is what it is. In the same video, I saw a woman like doing lotus position and doing an Om and breathing, and when she would breathe in, it would go dark, and then she would home and do her, her mantra, and beams of light that would shoot out. And this was recorded on this film. The same woman too, when her son came into her presence, it was like the fields went to each other and connected. And when the son came to her in embrace, you couldn't even see them. It just became bright white light. It was cool. I wish I still had that. I want to find that and share that with you guys. Okay. I'm really, all of that was just about building a case that there is a template that exists around you, that there is something more than just your physical body. You're not just a sack of bones and cells that, just happen to make arms and legs, and they grew into, like, they're secondary. They are an expression of something that is primitive, that's primary. It's the primus. It's like the first. It's the number one. It's the, the omega, or is it alpha? I totally don't know. If you guys know, you can correct me on that. Which one's first, the alpha, the omega? I don't know. Anyway, there's this saying, and it exists in the world of chiropractic. It says, as above, so below. It's like, it says up, down, inside out. So it says we get it from source, it comes down to us, we work through it, and then we express it outward. And all chiropractic philosophy was just about removing interference between you and the power that made you. This is chiropractic. So there's lots of different ways of doing that. They like to, crack your neck and your back. And, a lot of people love that. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm the crack-free chiropractor. I just never do any of that stuff. But I'm trying to, it's like a metaphysical literature kind of principle, as above, so below. I'm trying to take it out of the metaphysical world. Maybe that's my own, baggage or something, because I like the science part of it, but I love the metaphysical part of it too. I think that I've seen videos that do this. Okay, so go with me on this journey. It's the universe, and we zoom in and we see our solar system, and we zoom in and we see our planet, and we zoom in and we see our country, and there's a state, and then there's the town, and there's a tree, and then there's a branch on the tree, and then there's a leaf, and then we go down until we get to the atom, and we get to the electron, and we look at it spinning around, and all of a sudden it looks exactly like it did when we started out here in the universe, with the planets, revolving around the nucleus, or the sun in this example. So as above, so below. Or in our principle of holograms, the information to build everything, the big thing, is contained in the smallest part, right? Are you with me on that? This is the idea here. DNA in our body is really just an information manual. It's like a instruction manual. It's got the directions in it. And then it's nothing more than that. And shoot, I totally just belittle DNA saying it that way. It's not that, it's just that. What I'm saying is it has its role and it's awesome at what it does. It is not in charge of organizing all of these pieces to move, these cells to be the shoulder, and these ones are the neck, and these ones are the ear, and these ones are the forehead. The spatial organization of all of these tinier parts is governed by some beautiful conductor, like a symphony, like dun, 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 dun. It's humbling, it's elegant, it's powerful and subtle at the same time. It's in your face, but it's out of sight. It's this like dilemma. It's this oxymoron that happens for us. It's a lot like I taught you guys the double slit experiment, which basically said that electrons act like particles and they act like packets of light, or beams of light. Like this one thing contains two characteristics. It could be either way. This was Einstein's entire premise, that energy and matter were interchangeable. E equals mc squared, that the energy was equal to the mass times the speed of light squared. And this is where I wanted to go with you guys in the next step, okay? And I'm just going to tease you a little bit on it. And we're going to save it for the next time, because it wouldn't be cool if I just, I'm not prepared to really go into it. So I'll give you the skim over, and then you'll really enjoy a lot more when I have something more to prepare. But it's this idea that in physics, in Einstein's equation, like the faster that something went, so as the speed comes up and up and up and up and up, as it approaches the speed of light, if you were looking at a XY graph, a Cartesian coordinate graph, and you're looking at it, it's going to, the faster it goes, it's going faster, 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 and it's going to get as close as it can to the speed of light, but it can never reach the speed of light. It takes too much energy to be inputted into the system to make that mass go fast enough to reach the speed of light. So physicists say, if you put numbers into the equation, this was like Einstein-Lorentz equation. I think it was Tiller. Anyway, what I want you to understand is that if you put numbers into the equation that are faster than the speed of light, then you get this negative square root of -1, and that's not a number. It's like, it'll make your calculator blow up if you do that. So physicists, they don't like what are called imaginary numbers. And I don't know why. I mean, I had to learn imaginary numbers in freaking college algebra. So they should, I mean, I don't understand the sticking point. I don't know why they don't like it, but whatever. So the idea here is that when we plug in those imaginary numbers and we work out whatever those equations are, or what one physicist called hyper numbers, then we begin to have an appreciation for the subtleties that exist on the other side of the curtain. Okay, so in our Newtonian world of big things, our sort of space-time, I'll call it positive space-time, where we're trying to approach the speed of light. Well, there's an opposite to that. Einstein's equal opposite reaction. So there's another dimension there, I guess. I mean, I don't want to sound crazy or anything, but the math is showing us that at the same time that this is happening, that is happening, and that we are, in essence, we're not wearing out and moving faster. We're not approaching the end. We're not entropic. Entropy is this idea that everything in the universe wants to go to chaos. And I sent you guys an email about this the other day. Entropy basically is like always trying to tear everything apart. But living systems have this innate intelligence inside of them that stops them from being torn apart. And this is why as soon as you die, you turn back to dust, because you don't have that living innate intelligence inside of you anymore to bring order, to organize everything, to bring in food and assemble it into higher organized structures. Where was I going with this? This idea here of in a positive space-time world of electromagnetic things, where we age and get older. This world, we don't age, we get younger. We go backwards. Like, you remember the movie Benjamin Button, The Curious World of Benjamin Button? Things went in the opposite directions. It was negative space-time. So things were in an opposite entropy. Things were moving towards order. And we see that in place in the energetic, in whatever innate intelligence is that keeps us alive and keeps us in order. You can't really define it. So I'm saying this begins to open a discussion of a model for what that is, that it is something that is increasing entropy at all times, and almost, you could make an argument, moving us backward in time. So if we're moving forward in time or we're moving backward in time, isn't there potentially a way for us to learn to have one foot on each side and equally age and regress at the same pace and live forever and be immortal? Obviously, right now the answer is no, but all that means is nobody has figured it out yet. It's like when a medical doctor tells a patient, there's nothing more that can be done for you. I wish they would just say, there's nothing more that I can do for you in my knowledge and scope, but there's probably something that can happen for you. So, don't lose hope. So I'm just saying that we don't know it all. And just because we haven't been able to do it yet doesn't mean that it can't happen. So I was watching a cartoon with my son called The Octonauts, and they're underwater animals, and they help all the sea creatures. And they stumbled on the Immortal jellyfish. And I was like, whoa, this is so crazy. I did not know about this. And how perfect, the timing was, while my brain was in this sort of laboratory of trying to wrap my head around how positive space-time and negative space-time could be increasing chaos and decreasing chaos, how in the Newtonian world of positive space-time, electrical fields were primary, and they generated magnetic fields as a byproduct. And in this world, the magnetic fields were primary. They were first. And because of the direction, the linear alignment of those magnetic fields, they created electrical currents. So here was electromagnetic and here was magneto-electric. And I'm kind of being semantic here too, but there are just so many subtleties. And I'm not saying that there's one and the other. What I'm saying is they're both. The same way that the electron exhibits the characteristics of both, it's a particle and it's a wavelength. It's a beam of light. Like, if it's a beam of light, then it means that physical matter is like frozen light. It means that you, right now, your body, like, just touch yourself, hit yourself in the chest, or, rub your head, or like that thing that you're touching is frozen light. There was so much potential and energy inside of that. I mean, this is what atomic bombs are made from. I mean, this is where we began. Well, as soon as we discovered this, then the first thing we did was make a big freaking bomb out of it, which is stupid. But like the amount of potential energy, the amount of potential inside of you is you as frozen light with this power, this subtleties of magnetic electro impulses that are generated from your mind, the broadcast that you beam out into the world. It's exciting. it puts you in the driver's seat. You are in control. You are a creator. You know it too. Sit up tall. Be proud of that. You know, puff out a little bit because you are awesome. You are a champion. And everything that you want in your life, you deserve it. You really do. If you can just align this with it, it's like it's like a big magnet, for lack of better words. Like, this thing is a magnet. And what these equations are telling us in the subtle world of, you know, energetic, etheric, the etheric doorway, as we sort of go into that world, that it is primarily magnetic. It's magnetoelectric. It's the opposite of this big world that we live in. And so you bet your ass that your mind and your thoughts have magnetism. You bet your ass that you are a powerful creator and that you attract the things that you tune in your frequency to. It's like tuning your magnet into whatever you want to find, okay? So take that to heart. I want to go deeper into this idea of negative space-time, positive space-time, and the immortal jellyfish. But I'm going to leave it. I'm going to put it down. I'm going to leave it at that. Because I think that maybe this was enough for today anyway. Isn't that what we were all making our goal when we transcend? I'm not sure what you were asking, Pat, but I think that our goal here in the physical world is to raise our vibration as high as we can, but not too high so that we don't poof and transcend everywhere. And there's a fun conversation about that too. What did we come here to do? What did we come here to learn? Like, sometimes there's a sort of plan. We came here to learn something versus how we influence and attract what we want. So there's the battle. That's another fun conversation that we can have. So I told you I was going to be short today, so we're running just under an hour here. This is the first time I think I've ever done a talk in under an hour. But I just want to make sure there wasn't anything else I was dying to say. Tiny apples. Yeah, I talked about that. All right. See, like, here's my note. Like, this is pretty much just all I write. I just scribble some junk, and then there's an hour of lecture right there. Cool. So I'll quit stalling and badgering on. I'm going to make a repeat, I guess. I'll name it something different next week, but we'll have our fireside chat. And we're going to go deeper into this concept. So I'm going to show you guys the graph. I'm going to show you the equation. You might not care about it at all, but I'm telling you, you don't have to be an expert in everything. You just have to know enough to be able to manage it a little bit. You know, you don't have to know everything about how your car works, but you should know a little bit about it so that when you go in to take your car to the mechanic, you know, they don't take you to the cleaners. You should be able to stick your big toe in the water. So I want to be your big toe. I won't try and make a toe analogy. I'm loopy anyway. I literally worked on this other webinar I did today for about 11 hours straight this morning. And then had enough time to go and eat some food before I came. So, like I said, we're going to hang out every week. Do me a favor, guys. Please help me share, spread the word. It's just a small clique of us. So, I don't expect you guys to go open the floodgates. But if you know somebody that might dig this, then please do me the honor of referring them to this and send them the webinar registration links and get some people plugged into it. Maybe you might even be the source of something new starting in your community, or you might have a little clique of people. And I'm really happy to see you guys connect in the chat room and things and email each other outside of this. It's really an avenue for growth. It says, like, we all have these seeds of like intention and dreams and things inside of us. And I feel like these conversations are like water and sunshine on those seeds. So please just let yourself, please keep coming to these things. Let yourself just be open. You know, you let your guard down and just receive, period. You know, just receive. There's nothing but love that I have for each and every one of you. And I am going to sign off for now. So I will see you guys next week. Send me an email or something if you want. I'd love to hear from you guys, even if it's just to say hey or to say thank you or say a topic or something that you want to do. So sayonara.